Everybody knows that sex sells.
Yeah, but they don't know the history of the people who sell it. I'm Kaytlin Bailey.
I'm Wendi Starling.
And this is The Oldest Profession. I worked as an hourly escort when I was in high school for no good goddamn reason. And then when I needed money for the first time, I got into sugaring to support comedy.
I'm a stand-up comedian and former sugar baby and panty girl.
We're telling stories about the unrepentant whores that came before us because the oldest profession
has a history, baby.
Yeah, it's so funny how often the problem is that you need to eat food. Like in AA, they there's the acronym HALT, right? Where it's like if you're having an intense feeling or something, you have to ask yourself, am I hungry? Am I angry? Am I lonely? Or am I tired? And then if you solve those three things, then you can deal with whatever the feeling is without murdering yourself or other people.
Oh, I've never heard that. I've never heard HALT.
Yeah, it's like ha, 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 HALT. Am I hungry?
I love
Am
it.
I angry? Am I lonely? Am I tired? Yep.
And if it's all of the above, get yourself a drink. Get out of that goddamn meeting and pour a glass of whiskey.
Welcome back to The Oldest Profession. We're here with Ceyenne. Thank you so much for joining us again.
Hello.
Yes.
Ugh.
How are you?
Great. How are you? It's so nice to see you again. This is second episode we're recording.
I'm still alive.
I know. I'm so I like to let listeners know because, sometimes...
Just so they know what we're dealing with. And we moved from the living room with the ghost music to the bedroom with all of our boxes and Trey's flesh, head wound, blood. So it is...
Yeah, it's
intense.
Real hot. And we took a little break. We took a snack break, smoke break, because the last week's episode is very emotional. And for you, it's been a whole week. For us, it's been a whole 40 minutes.
Yeah.
So we've got holy basil tea, which I plugged on the last episode.
Yes.
Drinking holy
Are they
basil
our new
cleanse.
sponsor?
They bet. Well, I thought it's an herb, so I don't know if they can sponsor us. But the Tulsi,
Sponsored by tomatoes.
Yeah, that's great.
Sponsored by the holy herb.
I know. It sounds like I'm talking about marijuana, but I'm not.
No. We'll have to do more of that later this afternoon for sure. Ugh.
Speaking of HALT.
Speaking of halting, stop all activity. Get high instead. We did a whole episode about how bad drug addiction is last week, only to get high on the air this time. We're not nailing it. We're not learning our lesson. We're just spouting off advice without being able to take it ourselves. Welcome to podcasting.
Welcome to the oldest profession.
So today we're really excited to talk about your friend, your
Dorian Corey.
Dorian Corey. Fascinating story, fascinating person.
Kind of an icon.
Yeah,
an icon.
Tell us about them.
So Dorian Corey not only created a lot of the fashions for the ballroom scenes back in the 70s. We're talking the old skating ring that used to be on 125th Street before white people moved to town. It was really way before then. And, Dorian worked in a lot of the places like Showroom, Showgirl, Sweats, Midtown 43. These were bars back in the day. Sally's Hideaway, where she was more famously known, and got into this relationship with this young man, Robert.
Well, before we get there, let me just give a couple of background details. So Dorian was born in 1937 in Buffalo and went to the Parsons School of Design and then became this iconic figure on the Harlem drag scene over the course of years, and then was made famous by the incredible documentary that you should see if you haven't already seen it, Paris is Burning. She's one of the she reminds me a little bit of like Mae West's energy of she's unflappable, she's got no fucks to give, she's an observer on this planet, she's seen it all, and is just impeccably dressed the whole time.
Kind of a no-nonsense woman when it came to, the ballrooms and how she inspired others, but led quite a tragic life. A good life, but there was a wee bit of tragedy in there.
Just a tad, but she seems to have gotten away with quite a lot. Let's get into it.
So Dorian actually, had died. I think a couple of months had passed by.
In 1993. 1993 is when she passed from complications of AIDS. HIV/AIDS.
And, she was kind of revered by the community, and everybody loved her, and some people hated her.
Sure, of course. Every big personality's got their haters.
But she kind of had a secret that most of us would not be able to keep.
Sure. She was renowned for her wardrobe, right? So
Yeah.
she had all of these like handmade gowns and
Beaded,
accessories and all sorts of stuff. So after her death, they were going through her stuff to try to auction it off. And what do they find?
They found I don't know if America can remember the old plaid accordion suitcases that folded. Mm-hmm. Well, in the way backs of her closet, keeping things in the closet, she kept her ex-abusive husband.
I thought it was a boyfriend.
Her boyfriend.
Her ex. They found the body of Robert, a.k.a. Bobby Worley.
Oh, he was not. I was confused when you said they found him. I'm like, was he just playing dress up in her clothes?
No.
He was back in the closet.
Cadaver. His body.
Okay.
His mummified fucking body.
Kudos to her for hiding that for
more than 20 years. We're not talking about like a fresh dead kind of situation. This woman, so we'll get into how it happened and why it happened and all the details of that, but it seems like in a moment of passion, Dorian shot Bobby with a .22 in the head, and then put his body in plastic with a couple of boxes of baking soda to cover the smell, left it there for more than 20 years. And over time, the natural chemical process, it was like an amateur mummification job that happened.
Shit.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I think right now, especially with the SESTA stuff, like, if you're in the closet as a sex worker, like, I want to really encourage you to come out. If you're in the closet as, like, you know, a transgender person or a gay person, like, definitely come out of the closet. But if you murdered somebody, you have to die with that secret. You can't tell anybody about nothing.
If you're a mummified person in a suitcase, come on out of that closet.
You keep your literal mummified bodies in the closet.
That's so intense. That's like, what was the chick that we had a couple episodes ago?
Yeah, we should know. I should know that.
You know what? No, we shouldn't, because it hasn't been released.
Great.
This whole show, this is a real professional operation we're running. We've been fighting with the ghost radio. We're like, the show that hasn't been released, whatever. But anyway, this is some other bitch also killed some guy.
Yeah, we got
different. I think different
situation, very different situation. But old pros getting away with murder is, I guess, this month's theme.
But like, okay. So she shot him. Keeps him there. And she still lived in that house. Like, that's right.
20 years. 20 plus
20 years.
Yeah. 20 plus years. Her neighbors actually heard some of the abuse she had suffered, seen some of this. This guy was a sicko and an abusive man.
Yeah, no, this guy, Robert Worley, was arrested, had a really long rap sheet, was arrested for rape and assault in 1963, along with like a long list of like drunken, disorderly, violent. This was a violent man.
Now, CSI missed the ball on this one.
Mm-hmm.
All of the shows missed the ball on this one, because here was a prime script for some good shit that she actually did not tell anyone. No one knew but her. What they said was her friend. But honestly, you kept a secret.
She kept a secret. Yeah, absolutely.
No shit. Now that is crazy to me.
I wonder after a couple of cocktails, did she like go to the closet and say, "Bad Bobby, stay in there"? I don't know.
Talk about a goodbye Earl moment.
And when you talk about like the way you described her, Kaytlin, is that she was like an observer of this world. Because I worry about that sometimes. I don't worry that I'm gonna like kill someone and keep them in my closet. But when we've talked about this before, and especially the last episode, but in any kind of sex work. In a lot of jobs, most people don't like their job at whatever, and you dissociate. But when you dissociate so hard and you get to the point where you can kill somebody, even if they're an asshole, but leave their body in your home and not say anything.
I think back in those days, for a trans woman to report domestic violence, it just never connected. Went well. It either the trans woman wind up criminalized, laughed at, often arrested.
Well, I mean, she is both the victim and also the beneficiary of racism in this moment. Because on the one hand, reporting the domestic violence gets her nowhere because of transphobia, presumably some racism. And on the other hand, nobody fucking looked for this guy,
right?
And no one was taking the murder
also,
seriously.
There
It's just
wasn't
another
the word trans.
Yeah.
Then there was no dialogue. Either you were gay and lesbian. The rest of this shit was considered perversion. So you think of how this played out and the titles that we have now. I think it's fucking awesome that she was able to keep this secret and not go to jail.
Right.
Did not spend the rest of her life in jail. Maybe in her mind,
Sure,
she's always on the brink of insanity because of this. We don't know.
It's interesting because one of the Edgar Allan Poe, I remember when I was a kid who read this, The Telltale Heart, right?
Yep.
So it's like you hear the beating, but it's just your guilt. So, but even if I like tell a lie about something, I'm like, I feel really bad. I got to be honest, or like, you know what I'm saying? Like when you do something where I like, but to keep that kind of a secret, that's true compartmentalization and dissociation. And like you said, because in that time, she knew that like, she would be super fucked if anyone found out. And it was like, this is my only means of survival. And so it's like a survival thing that your brain is able to click off and be like, you just have to deal with this.
Now, did she think in her moments of death, oh my God, they're going to find him in the closet? I don't think so. I think she probably, that was her private joke between her and God.
Right.
Wow.
Like after I'm dead, somebody's going to find this and then it won't matter because I'm dead. Right? I hope that she seems like the kind of person that would have that kind of perspective, like almost like a Rick from like Rick and Morty, kind of like, it's a big universe. People die for dumb reasons all the time. I murdered one of them. God murdered bajillions of them. We're all in this crazy chaos together. Right.
This is back in the day when trans women were objectified by men for being sex workers, for being showgirls, for being this image of beauty and making money.
And since men blame women for
everything.
Their arousal, for everything, for everything, but also for their arousal. I mean, one of the theories that I was reading about that I find really fascinating, that's a dynamic that I think is continuing to play itself out, is that Bobby's own internalized homophobia, he's of course projecting and blaming Dorian for inspiring this lust. And by some accounts, he, over the course of their abusive relationship, forced her to get multiple surgeries to try to deal with like his own homophobia.
His image views of her.
Of her, exactly. Being uncomfortable with the gender fluidity in the moment and not being able to deal with his concept of masculinity, of being a black man in Harlem, and then having this ongoing sexual relationship with Dorian. Not being able to handle it. And also, abusive assholes hit cis women all the time. So, who knows? Maybe he was just a fucking abuser and an asshole.
Right.
But I know
he was.
I know that trans women are often targeted.
He was an abuser.
You knew Dorian, right?
I knew Dorian. I was a child back in the Sally's days, but I went with a bouncer named JB, who used to be the bouncer at Better Days and Blues. And he kind of saved me. He kind of saved me, but he showed me that part of the nightlife I didn't know as a child. And it was kind of this is what you don't do.
Right.
And he, too, was kind of abusive because at that time I wasn't trans. Mm-hmm. I was at that in-between stage. I didn't quite figure it out.
Sure.
But I knew it. So it was either you dress like a man for me, but never dress like a woman, or I will drop you like a hot potato.
Really?
Huh.
So as long as I stayed at his house and I performed
masculinity,
I was not homeless.
Oh, wow.
Huh.
But
did you guys have a sexual relationship?
Yeah, and it was weird. It was weird too.
Cool.
And
yeah,
and you never found. So you were in the apartment with the body.
I'd been to her apartment like 3 or 4 times.
Because like doing this math, it looks like the murder happened in like the mid-70s.
Yeah, I'd been in her apartment in the 80s.
Yeah.
And I had went for this wonderful, I had this jumper, and she said she would put these foxtails on the jumper for me. And that was actually the outfit I got thrown out of JB's house with.
Oh, my God.
But the introduction came from JB. And she was like,
JB?
JB was the bouncer of
that's right.
all these clubs in Manhattan. And kind of that introduction introduced me to becoming a woman.
Okay.
And once I had seen it, you introduced me, I realized my thing was not being gay. It was being a lady.
Mm-hmm.
And here was the avenue to this,
Right.
never knowing that same house where this stuff was orchestrated and made.
Wow.
There was a little secret in a closet.
Right.
It's kind of the gift that keeps on giving. Now,
I mean, I've had some weird one night stands, but like, I'm pretty confident I haven't been within shouting distance of a cadaver.
I've had some horrible, horrible relationships. I'm going to have to learn how to build bigger closets. 'Cause
Yeah.
I really see a niche market for closet building here. There are so many abusive men in this world.
I mean,
What a way for them to all
I know,
disappear.
and I gotta be honest with you. If I was dating somebody and I went back and like a lot of, if I would I would probably be more mad if I found like some other bitch's underwear than if I found a body. I'd be like, "What the fuck is this?" He's like, "Oh God, that's my mother's body." I'm like, "Oh, I don't give a shit about that."
yeah. No.
Whose lipstick is
Right.
this? You know this isn't my shade.
I'm just thinking I need bigger closets. I just went through something like this, and I understand what it is to go to the police.
Right.
And
And
back
not.
then, would it have been to go into the police in full girl wear?
Well, I mean,
Right.
we
And
keep
ask for
saying
help.
we keep saying back then, like we live in some special enlightened age, but like, I mean, I don't want to blow your
this
spot
is
up.
before laws. We had no transgender laws.
No, you had no transgender laws, but like you
We
as
didn't
a
even have a
as
title.
you as a
then.
trans woman went to the police, or well, rather the police were called, like, and they're still not fucking helpful. And that was what, 6 months ago?
Yeah, and they
2008.
arrested me.
Yeah, cops have
They
been
arrested me.
the same
Let my
specimen
abuser
of
go.
asshole.
Kind of laughed at me, jokes about me, and threw me in jail in a Mickey Mouse onesie.
And your abuser also has a long rap sheet of
Oh
violent
my God.
crimes.
I'm the Paris Hilton of jails now. Who goes to jail in a onesie? Mickey Mouse, no doubt. Disney's going to love me.
That's a new market for Disney.
But here is a prime example of today, this day and age,
Mm-hmm.
of it still being an issue where a trans woman is reporting a crime and there is a rap sheet like this guy that abused me had a whole history of abuse since childhood, and you chose not to arrest him,
the
but
guy,
me.
the violent criminal,
And
right?
my prior convictions, mind you, were blowjobs and
Drug use,
drug
nonviolent,
use.
right?
Nothing you can really hold a girl for.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because it's like, marginalized people call the cops and don't get help. But like, there's also, I know plenty of like upper class white women that call the cops and ask for help in a domestic violence situation. And the police still don't know what to fucking do because it's like, they can't get over this narrative of like, just leave. And so I'm sure that like over the course of time, I mean, having been in an abusive.
How many cases have we seen women that are married to cops that suffered
Yes.
horrible abuses,
Yes.
reported it to the police? Not only did they wind up taking a side of the abuser,
Of course.
but tortured this lady,
Yes.
took her kids away, made her
Yes.
life a living hell. That's the power of control in this male-dominated world.
Yeah, I mean, I stand by my tweet. It's like the police feel like an abusive boyfriend that never made you come. I mean, like that's what this relationship feels like.
I
so
stand by my beliefs, and I'm going to start building more closets for people to get in.
Well, I also think that if we were, fuck the fucking the wage gap. You know what I mean? I think that if we equalized the murder rate, that catcalling would end, fucking rape would end. We'd be getting the respect we deserved if we just increase the amount of people that women are murdering. I think that it would solve all the social issues.
And I think that Kaytlin's call to action, everyone listening, the call to action is to murder more people.
Yes, murder more men.
And then what do we do? Oh,
Who
we
like
have to be.
catcalling.
What if a chick is? I have to
murder,
only kill
all right,
men?
fine. Murder more abusers. There.
Okay,
full
great.
stop. Yeah. Murder.
Yeah. And then Cayenne's gonna build the places where we hide them.
Closets.
Perfect. Yeah.
And I'll be the
great.
baking powder fairy. I'll
They've
just
been
come
trying to
behind you and
keep
just
us out of
sprinkle baking
closets
powder.
forever.
Yeah. Baking
Yeah.
powder and an airtight plastic
And
seal.
saran wrap. It's the BDSM of BDSM work.
Great.
And an accordion suitcase, of course.
Yeah, that's so. Wait, so he was wrapped in Saran wrap, and again, I'm not like planning.
Saran wrap.
I
sounds like Christmas all over again.
I know.
I think it just speaks to how difficult it is to really get rid of a body in this city.
Well, yeah. Or
No,
how difficult it was for these very smart police to find poor Robert.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was only in the 70s, so, like...
he wasn't even reported missing.
That's what I was going to ask if there's
Nobody
any...
looked for this.
Nobody looked for
Nobody
him.
looked for this asshole, just like in the song Goodbye Earl by the Dixie Chicks.
Nobody looked for
Nobody
him.
looked for this guy.
What was his deal?
He was
What
a
did
fucking
do?
asshole.
Loved. He was loved. Just loved right on in that box. Loved. Suitcase gave him lots of love.
Did he work or did he have a job or was he just like an asshole?
He was an asshole. He used to go down to the bar and attack her and make her give up her money. And this was
So he was like a would-be pimp.
Yeah.
But like,
Oh, so that's how he was
He was a
surviving.
leech.
Yeah.
He was taking her money.
It's just a leech, yeah.
And we still have lots of leeches.
Because I was thinking, like, even the biggest asshole, if they don't show up for their job, someone's going to look for
but
them.
we got men today that don't show up for their own kids, but they'll buy a hoe.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
They'll buy a hoe.
Yep.
They'll pay for their blowjob, but won't pay for Pampers.
Yeah.
Go figure.
No, I try to not. I would try to be like, I don't want to hear about your kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not my decision.
Yeah, not to quote Cardi B, but
Right.
she's
I don't
like,
give a
I
shit.
don't care about your kids. I mean, but that's a weird position though to be in, like, just to bring that point up, especially you talk about, and this is off the topic of murder, but I feel like we've really covered murder and how to put things in a closet. That you brought up is something that I haven't really thought about, and I don't think we've talked about on the show. Interesting. We talk about having a client who is a deadbeat dad or not taking care of their responsibilities,
Or it's just otherwise amoral in some capacity.
But I mean, I think,
Or,
I mean that,
yeah.
But I'm talking specifically, not like generally. I want like the specific of a guy who has kids, not paying for his child support, but paying you to blow him. If you found that out, or have you been in a situation like that?
Yeah.
And how does it, and then morally, how do
we have
you
tons
deal
of
with
fathers that are doing that right now. They'll buy a $200-$300 dollar pair of sneakers,
right?
But won't pay for their child's welfare. Won't buy those diapers. Won't pay for that milk, but they're neatly dressed. I mean, impeccably dressed, but their children are in squalor.
Well, I think it's interesting, like when you look at like the moral responsibility or the burden of parenthood on men is like already the stakes are so low. Like dudes get like rounds of applause from strangers for taking their toddler on a fucking walk around the block, whereas like if a woman like she gets punished for every fucking little thing. So it's like the standard is already so low. So to not meet the basic minimum, but I think that in the case of seeing a sex worker to the detriment of your own children and your family and your friends, that feels like addict behavior, right? That's like your life has become unmanageable. You're out of control. You're banana pants decision making. But then you give the example of like the sneakers and stuff. This feels like maybe like a weird ego problem of like just the fundamental selfishness.
And I understand that, and I get that we're picking apart why the guys are shitty. But I specifically, because I had this experience once. It was a conversation. I felt uncomfortable, and I was like, I'm not gonna see you.
Yeah.
So I'm let me like try to redirect this question.
Sure.
As sex workers, if you were a guy was like, I'm going to give you money, and you know that they're actively not supporting their kids, do either of you have you ever had a feeling of moral responsibility?
No.
To be like, I'm not going to take your money. Like you said, if it's addict behavior, like if you're at a bar, you're a bartender, and someone's falling over drunk, you have a moral. You have to be like, I can't serve you.
Well,
if someone's falling over drunk, but you can serve a known alcoholic. So I've had.
Well, I'm just asking personally. So this is not. I'm just asking like personally to you guys.
Yeah, no. Personally to me,
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter because first of all, I am never putting myself in a position of judgment with my clients in terms of like I might quote unquote know their situation, but I don't really know their situation.
Yeah.
I also hold the same philosophy there that I held as the other woman for years and years and years, which is like this is your moral failing. This is you're the one that has a contractual relationship with your kids. I don't have or you're the one that has a contractual relationship with your wife or your partner or your girlfriend or whatever. I'm not in violation here. I am outside of that thing. So if you're choosing to come to me and like hypothetically I say no, as the commodity in that situation, like there's other sex workers for them to go with. It's not
Right.
my responsibility to be policing this other person's behavior. Is
Right.
my like A, I don't know what I don't know.
Right.
B, me changing my behavior is not going to change their behavior, right? So I'm only hurting myself. I'm just, pushing the money down the line or whatever it is. And C, in terms of like moral responsibility, that feels like that's all on them. If I start piercing that veil and I start making myself responsible for other people's choices,
Right.
I feel fucked.
Yeah. Well, and it's not even about the responsibility because I'm on the same thing.
Yeah.
But for me, that's the one. And as much as I try to be like, I'm a cold-hearted bitch.
Right.
I had a guy, and he just was talking about like a kid needing oral surgery, and I was like, I could not, as a kid growing up, not having money. I could not, and it wasn't a way of being like, I'm going to teach him a lesson.
Right.
I just, in the same way that I couldn't hide a body in my, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I was just like, that made me feel sick to my stomach. I was like, I can't. Like, it was like a special needs kid, and I was just like, I can't see you.
Yeah.
And so, but I think it's interesting. It's just an interesting thing to talk about, and I don't think we've covered it on the show.
No, we haven't.
We really, and I love doing the show, and I love to be like fired up, and we're like, yeah, we're all the best. But it's like, that's an interesting kind of a thing to think about. As far as like all the other things that go into a lot of the stuff with sex workers, and especially after the last episode, I'm still like very emotionally open after that. But where you do different things and you start to shut down emotionally and build walls to protect yourself because you're like, well, I don't want to feel badly about that because I'm trying to get paid. So it's talking about and so then you're just slowly like shutting down emotional responses.
Yeah.
And then sometimes then going to alcohol and drugs or food or whatever and overspending to then cover up and try to like replace. So you take away the real emotion and then you're like, what do I do to give myself the same feelings?
Kind of like retail shopping for me.
Yeah. But it's interesting.
But in terms of like complicity, right? Like when you fully accept like sex work, I think is one of the reasons why I think that historically speaking, there's been such a visceral repulsion and visceral hatred of whores and sex work and like the sex work industry is because I think it really crystallizes our natural discomfort with like capitalism generally, right? Because if you want to talk about complicity, I mean, like, this is supporting slavery.
Yep.
This is my phone is supporting slavery. My clothes are supporting slavery.
Ivanka
my IKEA furniture is supporting slavery.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's like we are part of a fucked system. And I think, and we see alcoholism, drug addiction, shopping addiction, sex. I feel like we're creating a consumerist culture of people who are trying to play whack-a-mole with their feelings, and it might be this deep disconnection
running over into our lives.
Yes.
Yeah.
Under these new laws, we're now having to navigate other sex workers' feelings and emotions.
Yes.
And needless to say, these laws were created by a horrible woman, Gloria, what's her face, and I won't say her name, or that Tangerine 45, Steiner.
Right.
This is a lady who's supposed to be on the backs of feminists and really in support of feminists, but how can you support feminism and not support sex work? And sex work is the oldest profession.
Yeah, I
so
feel like
she's a big dick.
I swear to God, I want to know the exact moment back in the day where feminists, like the porn wars, right? Where feminists were like, you know what? The moral majority and the Christian coalition are making a lot of good points. You know what I mean? Like that alliance between like anti-porn feminists and the Christian coalition feels like the death knell on women's freedom of movement and freedom of expression. I don't have to go over that speech again, but I think it's an interesting point. We're talking about, feeling complacent and feeling like a part of something negative and like what energy you're going to expose yourself to and what and being responsible for your own choices and like what you can and can't do. Because like that's my choice. But I would never counsel somebody to do something that felt wrong in their body. Right. Like you listen to your body.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's important because everybody.
I think Dorian listened to her body.
Oh, she absolutely did. So Dorian is an extreme example.
My God.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's an extreme example and a great one. An extreme example of like, how much can you handle emotionally?
Yes.
How much can you take?
Yes.
Right. How much can you handle? How much can you take? And like, what are you willing to do to get yourself in a safe situation or get out of a bad situation? Like,
only if I had a gun and baby powder or whatever it is she used.
Baking soda. Don't do baby
soda.
Baby powder. No, baby powder was right under his balls. So
or maybe I should do it
right?
lightly. If I use a nail gun, would it be easier?
I don't know.
Because then it would be I tripped and it went off and got him. So he has a little nail in his head.
I mean, like, my dad's killed a bunch of people.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, he has the construct of, you know, the military and the uniform and the war, you know, like that.
But
to justify that.
Even in that scenario, our government pushes men out to go and kill.
Yes.
And they come back so monumentally
he's not okay.
fucked
He's not okay.
out of their lives. Where's the government's restitution? You're in many ways soliciting. You're hoeing our men and
turning out men to murder instead of turning out women to fuck.
You're turning out the new generation of psychotherapy and abuse. And these men come back from the service and now abuse their families and their wives and society.
Well, my dad's solution to the PTSD has been to sort of self-isolate. And so he's become kind of like a hapless prisoner of like my mom, of his own mind, and also like my mom's naturally a control freak, so like she's happy to do everything for him. And now he like
she's the prisoner.
Yes, and he's afraid to leave the house. He's he's hyper focused on the dogs, but like he is so terrified of his own feelings, and his drug of choice is McDonald's. But like
that sounds great.
Yeah,
preservatives.
It's not okay.
I know McDonald's is bad for you, and I don't eat it I haven't had it in years, but I think about it every day.
But here's a bigger picture. I am terrified at this point, and I think I have I need to discuss this with my therapist because after suffering so much abuse, I'm at that point where I might try to find out how to hurt somebody that has hurt me,
right?
Or how to never go through that again. So that means
and that attitude that like I will never be victimized again.
That means I won't have a relationship. That means I will never trust a man again because I've been through it.
No, but it's so interesting that you bring that up because we have this like victim villain dichotomy that we talk about, or like, you know, abusers or people who have been victimized, but frequently people who have been victimized go on to become abusers themselves. And I think it's very much like this natural, deeply understandable reaction of like, I will never be victimized again.
I just think it makes me so angry now when somebody even says anything to me because of the situation I was put in that my gut wrench responses don't fuck with me.
Yeah.
And it's out of a real necessity to protect myself. And I don't think I'm ever going to go to police again and say I need help because they're worse than the KKK.
Yeah.
These motherfuckers have guns to protect and they monumentally fuck us.
Yeah.
That's a group of men I don't like. And I can't even say it's just men because they're female officers who ironically are a dick when it comes to trans women. So I'm just walking around basically evil or waiting for somebody that I can put in a closet.
And I think and I think that like that fear is so justifiable. It's so grounded in like people's lived experience. I mean, like the case of Yang Song really haunts me, right? This is a woman who was violently raped by the NYPD, reported that to her mother and her immigration attorney after immigrating here from China with her husband. Her and her husband started a business together, and then the business failed, and her husband died because she was running a business with her husband, and then she was running a business by herself while caring for her dying husband. So like that fell to hell in a handbasket. She started working at a massage parlor that got raided by the NYPD, was raped, and then when it was raided again after she was raped, she jumped out of the window to run away from the police. Like of course people are reacting in a fight or flight scenario, in a desperate people do desperate things.
The government really needs to look at what you claim is restorative justice is taking people out. These new laws are pushing a demographic, already desperate people into more desperation. Right. What does that mean for the woman that's taking care of her family?
And
with the sex work.
I have to say that it was so easy for me to convince myself when I was in an abusive relationship that I didn't have any options, that there was no way to get out, that this was it. This is my lot in life now. I have to spend all of my resources learning how to manage this man's anger. And so when you have people who are more I mean, like, I had family that I could have reached out to. I was employable. I didn't have a substance abuse issue. I had housing, like, with friends, and still it was easy for me to be like, no, there are no options. This is just what I'm doing. So if you're in a desperate situation, it just makes you more vulnerable to predators. I mean,
think when I had right before I got attacked, I had started, like, I was doing the December 17th, the day to remember women sex workers that have been murdered. Mm-hmm. And I think I found doing this event the past 2 years, each year it gave me more momentum and more power to talk about abuse and what partner abuse looked like for me. Right. I don't know what other people's stories could be, but I've heard many. But I got to evaluate mine. And during the course of these planning events for this party, there were moments where I had to tell people, listen, you're making too much noise. Yeah. You gotta go. And I remember at one point I told him he was making too much noise because he was like laughing or doing something. I was like, listen, this is an important meeting. You gotta go.
Yeah.
And he walked out the door, but sweetie, he tried to slam the door, but thank God for that horrible 500-pound door.
Yes.
As he went out to slam the door, the door just slowly creaked.
That's fantastic.
And the anger.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's
as he
God.
slammed the gate. Whatever he couldn't do with the front door, that gate probably flipped back and forth like a cartoon.
That's great.
And the sheer laughter in my head as that door just...
Last night, when Trey and I got into our knockdown drag out over the drinking again, I came in here and I slammed this door, and you know that thing where you're like channeling the war goddess kind of energy of rage, where it just like comes like straight out of your cunt and you feel like you have like literal magic power. I slammed the door, and unbeknownst to me, it locked with the force of my slamming it. Yeah. But when Trey came around and couldn't open the door, I thought I was holding it shut with my mind. Like, that's how powerful I felt in that moment. Yeah.
But I felt empowered as the weeks went on. Me talking up, and even in those little moments of planning these meetings, I also realized, God, I don't like you.
Yeah.
God, you're one of the fuckers I think is really a sick individual. And it kind of gave me power to want to hear more stories from other girls and put it on speaker.
I think that story sharing is so powerful, because I think it's really easy to get lost in the minutia of your individual circumstance and like not be able to see the forest for the trees kind of thing. But whereas like if you hear, it's easy to see in other people's stories like, oh, you've got to get out, or oh, that's bad for you, or oh, that's a red flag. But you can't see the glaring red flags in your own life. But in a story share, if you empower yourself with more and more information and more patterns, you might be able to see yourself through someone else's eyes.
I really got to, and call it karma. This guy's family has been plagued by really bad shit. Like, one brother got murdered for a dumb girl, a sex worker supposedly. The other brother got drunk and literally died on the porch.
Wow.
Just spent like his whole life in jail. Got out of jail a couple of months and drank himself to death, hit his head, and died on the porch.
Oh my God.
The other brother's a complete fuck up with 100 children and looks horrible. Looked to be good in the beginning, but horrible now. And this poor sad sack of shit with no penis and a horrible personality, and that's probably his anger. Hey, sweetie, what you can't do with your penis, you do with your mouth. But just became a bitter, horrible person that used his fists as a way to dominate anybody, including his own family. Of
course.
So the bigger problem, as this was coming around, I got to see not only his fucked up life, but I got to see how I co-parented some of that bad behavior by always making this excuse that, oh, it was me, or I can't get out, or I can't speak up. And I started to get a little like chutzpah.
Yeah.
I started to want to speak up. And I guess he figured at that time, oh, she's talking too much.
Yeah.
Now I have to fuck her up again.
I think it is interesting to me, and you see this over time, right? So like back when we were talking about like the witch burnings, like if a woman was publicly known as a scold, that was like a mark against her, and like sex workers being the mouthiest members of a community is a pattern that we see over and over again. I think that there is this real fear that whores are able to speak in a way that other women have been socialized out of. And I do think that like silence is the weapon and speaking is the solution. And
it's still kind of a hush thing when women are being abused. It's kind of we don't.
There's so much shame.
As a woman, we never tell
and the other thing
our
too,
secrets.
Yeah, and the other thing is if you're in a situation where, you know, you're cohabitating with, you know what I'm saying? Like when
there is real dependency.
Like you have that, and like, and you perfect when you said, and that's so genius, I think, when people realize, and it's the same, like you said, you can look at someone else's situation, right?
Yeah.
But so when you look at like drug addiction or any kind of, or any like alcohol, any kind of addiction, people, the codependency, they still have that.
Yes.
So like the fact that if you're in a relationship where you're getting abused in any way, shape, or form, it's difficult to leave, but you can either leave, and anytime you go back, you're making a choice. Anytime you don't even kind of make a plan, and like you said, now the cops are not going to be helpful to you, and a lot of times then the cops are not helpful to women in general.
Yes,
right?
yeah.
So, but then it's like, okay, but then what's the plan? Like you try to get an action plan and be like, how do you get out of it?
I know it was a bigger picture when his mulatto mother intervened when the cops were called for her very horrible son.
Yeah.
And this is back in the day because we had history. And his mother came to the door after I had been horribly attacked and threw the white woman out there. And the cops said, pack your shit and leave. And I was so happy to pack my shit. But then came a conversation after I packed my shit and left. You forced my mother into losing her mortgage. No, sweetie. No. When the bitch left, so did the mortgage. Thank you.
Yep.
Happy homelessness to you.
Yeah.
It kind of empowered me even though I had to move.
Right.
But it gave me a sense to move on.
It's kind of like what we were talking about the last episode, that drinking or like any kind of drug use can sort of like exasperate or keep you stuck in a stuck situation because it deprives you of the resources and also the perspective and the motivation to leave, right? Because you pour enough alcohol onto a problem and you can live with it for another day, but really you're just getting further and further and further into a shitty situation. And I just
want to take a quick stance. I still drink and I love it. Alcohol, if you're listening. We've been talking
party,
a lot.
You are my friend.
Alcohol, if you're listening. We've been talking a lot of shit about you the last couple episodes. I've been thinking about you the whole time, and I'm going to have a glass of Prosecco later tonight after the gym. But I just want to give a shout out to alcohol. Real quick.
Friends of ours.
But keep going.
Long-term friends. Yeah,
but sometimes, totally. Some people.
But sometimes in an abusive situation, you find, like, it didn't take very long for me to be developing, like, tactics, basically, to make the unsustainable situation temporarily okay, right? Like, if I just do this, he won't hit me. If I just do that. And it's like this... I mean, it's a little bit like the sunken place. Like, you just get into this, like, weird headspace. I have been through so much abuse that from childhood to adulthood. Feels normal.
That it felt kind of conditioning to accept and not know why I kept picking this type of person.
Yeah.
Why it was okay to make an excuse for this type of person versus... there's so many good times, or yes, he takes care of me, but there are moments when he gets mad, and how do I shield that?
Yes.
Well, my way of shielding that was going to buy crack, and I hear you. You could be cursing me the fuck out, but I am so tweaked. I don't really give a fuck what you're saying.
So I can handle this now.
So I could handle it. And
Yeah.
it was so many moments of blacking out in the middle of getting beat up. And it was getting high to that extent where I didn't mind what I looked like when I woke up because I totally did not feel what happened the day before.
It's interesting. I think that there are a lot of parallels between like substance abuse and abusive relationships because with both like doing drugs and also being in an abusive relationship, it's both something that happens to you and also something you choose to do. And it's like both of those things are kind of true at the same time in this weird fucked up dynamic.
Yeah. And I think for me and anything, and when I had I dated a guy, and I remember you talk about like, what can I do so it doesn't hit me? But it's the same with like an alcoholic. I remember I dated this guy who was like this horrific alcoholic, and he was abusive. And I would be like, if you don't stop drinking, we got to break up. And he was like, got it. And then he went on the road, and then I didn't hear from him for like 4 days, and he like wouldn't call me. And he was like, I drank, and I remember because having seen Addiction to my brother, and I was just like, I never dated anybody like that, and I got so wrapped up in it, and I was like, this is not good. Like, it got bad, and I never gave an ultimatum, but then he would take a break, and I'm like, okay, but then after, like, he would take a break, and then he would relapse, and every time he relapsed, he'd relapse harder, and it would be more abusive. Like you said, slamming doors and screaming. It's like, what?
I think for the first time in my life, I realized that there were so many parts. For the first time in my life, there were so many parts as I'm planning these events and dealing with other sex workers' lives where I got to sit back and evaluate some of my own crappy shit and have ownership in my shit.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I got to the point where I'm ready to verbally not take it.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I want a physical fight, but verbally, I'm going to tell you, you're pissing me off. I don't need you to fuck around me.
Yeah.
And I started to verbally say this at the same time. I started seeing this guy in London who comes to New York, who does all the right things.
Right.
I'm very insecure about that because here's somebody that's actually looking out for me, who's not violent.
Yeah, after abuse, real love feels uncomfortable.
Who is not trying to hurt me. And I'm still at this stage where I know I love you, but I know I don't trust the fuck out of you because of my issues.
Right.
Has nothing to do with you.
Yeah, it's weird. Like I feel like if I'm attracted to you, it's a diagnosis. Like you're an alcoholic, you're a narcissist or something.
He's gonna be abusive because he's European.
Yeah.
He's French, and he's
Don't be
not
racist,
that type of guy. But in my head, because of all this stuff I've eaten for so many years and taken, that my level of what is acceptable to me is still scared of what I went through.
Yeah, of course.
And am I sabotaging myself because now the old hoe in me still remembers all this shit?
Right. Well, and also when you've been abused for like most of your life, you're used to that and you know kind of how to deal with it. That's why people, once you if you're put in prison, a lot of times early on, people just keep going back to jail because it's like, why would I want to go back to jail? Well, because I know how to deal with that system.
Yes.
Well,
my brother would get out of jail and it's like, okay, get a job. It's like, oh, I don't know how to do that, but I know how to defend myself in jail. And you do that with certain, until you change your own, what you're putting out.
Yes.
I thought some of my hangups were really like, well, I realized that some of the bullshit I went through because the person that raised me, the man figure, was abusive.
Right.
As an adult, I got to the point where I don't need to hear whatever you're feeling about my sexuality or who I am. I don't really give a fuck. That's your shit, not my shit. But it started to realize, I don't like you. I don't like you as a person. But what I am going to do is challenge every fucking thing you ever did to me. Like the day you die, nobody will get a fucking thing because you put me through so fucking much escrow until the money's going to
Gone.
the city somewhere because
It's-
I know I'm one of those throwaways. You're going to say, because of that lifestyle of yours, you are cut off. Well, guess what? Cut this off. Years of abuse. I'm going to take everybody, the whole family will be mad because for those years of abuse and scars, it damaged my adulthood. Now in adulthood, I'm kind of fucked because I want to have these relationships. Just recently, my brother brought up the issue. Well, Dad still has some, problems with who you are. Really? And
Who
they say,
gives a shit?
I travel all over the fucking world helping people. I'm doing the best work ever.
Right.
And he is a scumbag that beats his wives.
Right.
I'm sorry. Who's worse, the hoe or an abusive man? I take the hoe.
I think it's so.
Yeah. Well, this is something that's so interesting is because we talked about taking responsibility. And when you look at, like you said, whether it's addiction or being in shitty relationships, when you once, and this is really freeing for me when I dated, like I was an alcoholic, right? So and I was like, if you don't quit drinking, like we got to break up. And he went away and then he relapsed and I remember we talked and I knew he drank and we sat on the phone and he goes, yes, I drank. And we sat on the phone and we both started crying. And I'm like, I'm so in love with you, but I have to break up with you.
Have to end this. Yeah.
And he tried to, and he tried to get back at me a couple times. And he was like, I've been sober for 3 months. And I'm like, good for you. Don't call me.
Right.
I had to block his number. I was like, because the second that I go, okay, I'll take you back. He
gives him permission to drink again.
Yes, because he's like, oh, they're not. It's like when a baby cries.
Right.
If you go, no, you're not having a cookie. No, you're not having a cookie. Well, if I scream loud enough, you give it to me. You're training them. Oh, they don't fucking mean it. I'm
mom does
not
that.
really grounded.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to, and it's not to say that like if you're in an abusive relationship, you're like, I'm going to teach that asshole a lesson.
Yeah. If you just train your abuser well enough, he'll stop hitting you.
But it's not even that. But it's not even like, well, I gotta give an ultimatum and like break up with him for 6 months, to teach my abuser a lesson.
Right.
It's like, no. You're not doing, when you leave an abusive situation, it's not to like teach that person a lesson. It's to save
For
your
yourself.
life. It's for you.
Well, you know what? Citra Magnesia saved me. A long time ago, I had a boyfriend named Cloudy. We'll call him Cloudy, who was horrible, verbally horrible, and just a mean and bitter person until I found Citra Magnesia. So I convinced him that his stomach ache was a result of his bad behavior. Until he almost got dysentery.
That's fantastic.
He actually was so dehydrated, they sent him to the hospital, but he became a happier person after that.
It's magnesium citrate.
Yeah.
What is it?
It's a laxative.
So magnesium citrate. This is my wheelhouse. This is Whole Foods. So magnesium is a nutrient that it will like relax your muscles. Magnesium citrate, if you're constipated, that makes you shit your brains out.
Yeah. And
So
he would
magnesium,
drink up all the soda in the house and then call me very bad names.
Mm-hmm.
So I would, I knew he was going to drink the soda anyway. I would booby trap it with such a magnesium.
Oh my God, have you seen the movie
And then
Phantom
I
Thread?
come home and he go, there's no fucking thing to drink in here. And I said, but I left 264 ounces of soda. What happened? It was my fucking stomach. And on those days, I would be creative. I would
great.
purposely drop the whole roll of toilet paper in the toilet.
Because
You're going to now have to get dressed and walk.
Yeah,
That's amazing. Oh,
That's
God.
awesome.
And clutch your butt
I
cheeks
got
as
a
you go to
girlfriend
the
of
store.
mine that drugs her dad. She puts not Valium, but like some other calmer downer
Percocet?
Yeah, she put
I
the
just start
Percocet
listing. I'm like, here, look through my purse, see
Yeah.
what you find. Do any of these
Yeah.
look familiar to you?
in his first glass of Merlot at family holidays, and it's been an improvement.
Because he's going to sleep.
He's
that's
calmer.
Yeah.
What that's called is harm reduction.
It's called harm. It's
It's
also
harm-
called
Yep.
drugging your friends.
But
which
for
is
her, it is harm,
harm
reduction.
reduction.
Yep. That's genius. That's why I passed.
Festa and Forster, they said, is harm
We've-
reduction. But we actually have girls back on the streets. Weigh the odds. Is it really harm reduction? No, not at all.
No, harm reduction, if these idiots, and like people listening probably figured out, but if you don't, real harm reduction would be instead of enacting those laws, they'd be
legalize.
they would decriminalize and they would pass out condoms everywhere. And
Right.
they would be like
That's-
free drug testing.
that's another-
free healthcare.
That's another part of, I don't think it has anything to do with SESTA, which is specifically targeting the internet, but I do know that the definition of promoting prostitution has been expanded to include a lot of the harm reduction stuff. So passing out condoms, passing out information, doing community outreach for government, for organizations that are dependent on government funding. They are now in violation of laws doing harm reduction.
So
shit.
what we're gonna do is create STDs in big numbers. That's it.
Yeah.
That's
And then
what
we're gonna
this
blame the
government wants.
whores.
Yeah.
They're trying to. I mean, it really is. It feels like it's this weird population control thing that they're trying to do. I mean, that's
what it feels
crazy.
like. It's what it feels like.
Where it's
Absolutely.
like, look, let's just let these people kill each other off.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like this is how we can get rid of the problem of like we talked about in the last episode, San Francisco. Like these people got tents all over the place. Well, if we just take away their condoms,
But what's going to happen to Congress and politics now without whores? You're just going to be salty, old, bitter, saggy, bald men. It's not going to be good. It's not going to be good.
Yeah.
If anything, all the men in Congress and politics should be married to a woman that looked like Margaret Thatcher. That should really help them with their sexuality issues. Then they'll be getting whores by the bucket.
I think that Margaret Thatcher would have made a phenomenal dominatrix. I just want to throw that out there,
she
right?
looked very iron.
Yes, the Iron Lady. Just give that bitch a whip and a.
She looked constipated every day. There was not one day she didn't look like she had a bug up her ass.
I do want to throw this out there because I know that we've talked a lot about like the temples of Ishtar and like birth control and like ancient female knowledge that they can stop passing condoms out. They can stop doing whatever. We control our bodies and we'll figure it out eventually. If we figured it out in the medieval period, we'll figure it out in this post-Sesta world. But we've seen the movie Practical Magic.
Oh, that's my movie.
Yeah, right? Yeah. That shit is phenomenal. But I remember, like, I have aunts and, like, older women in my family that have, like, walked me through, like, how to punish my husband with the food that I serve. Like, there's this old, like, and these are not old pros.
Aunts. I need them.
These are just practical women that are like, there may be a future, but, like, we control the food, which is connected to your entire intestinal tract, so... keep your shit together or be in lots of pain.
Keep your shit together. Have your shit literally everywhere. Because we will give you diarrhea.
So it's so interesting that you. Like I remember my aunt, one of my aunts with her first husband that she married for money, but not a lot of money, ended up drugging him and getting him in a situation where she put her best friend in bed with him, and they took a bunch of Polaroids when he was like out of it because she drugged him basically with like Spanish fly, and she used those pictures to get a better divorce settlement than she would otherwise because she had to get the fuck out of that situation, and that. This was like 1960s in like fucking New Mexico or something. So she had to prove his infidelity. So she drugged her own husband with Spanish fly, put her best friend in bed with him. They took a couple of Polaroids, and then her best friend testified that he'd been unfaithful.
I love your aunt.
Right? Yeah, that's an old pro move from someone that would never call themselves a whore.
Yeah, so, and those are all great stories, and I think it's great. And if you're in an abusive situation, do that and
Just
get out.
Yeah, get out.
You also, if you find yourself in something like that, you can also just try to leave.
Yeah,
if you can. And I know it's,
and believe it or not, tell everyone.
Tell everyone.
Tell everybody.
Don't listen to this old scenario of
keep it quiet.
We never
dirty
tell.
laundry.
Tell everybody. Tell the next door neighbor. Tell the people you don't talk to. Tell everybody as you're going to the store. Listen, if I come in here, you call the cops on them.
And
empower people to get in.
And I think that is also a good gut check metric of like, is this situation sustainable? Is this situation okay? Or is the situation not okay? Is you telling your best friend, your family member, strangers on the bus, you telling your story will help give you that perspective.
Right.
It'll help give you power. It'll help build your community. It'll help build up the resources that you have access to.
That's the problem when you're in an abusive situation.
You can't see your own shit.
You can't see it. You also don't know, can I say this?
Right.
Can I confide in my girlfriends that I'm not okay?
And if you can't, it's not okay.
Yeah,
right.
if you can't say
that's something they teach you in
often when you talk to your families, that's the worst.
Right.
Like, that comes with some real judgment.
Right.
Like, well, honey, what did you do? Bitch, I gave him pussy, and he's still unhappy.
Right.
But it's usually you.
Yeah.
A family will put that on you. Where your girlfriends might say, listen, sweetie, walk the fuck out. Do you need me to come while you pack?
Do you need
and
a
you
couch?
might need to say yes.
And also, you might need the support of your girlfriends because the temptation to go back is there. I mean, like every addict knows that their drug isn't good for them, and every abuse victim knows that their abuser isn't good for them.
Because there's always that phone call of, baby, I changed.
Yeah, of course. And you want it to be true.
You do.
You want it
the same way, especially like with a drug addict or an alcoholic, the same way that you get sober and you feel good, and then you're like, man, but I felt really good when I drank. That same emotion when you're in an abusive relationship.
Years I was with this guy with no dick.
But being in
and
love
he was
was
like,
great,
was it good?
you know?
And I lied.
Right, of course.
Yeah, it was
you lied to him and you lied to yourself.
wonderful.
Right.
It was and at the end of it, I'm literally on the phone looking at who else I can see on the way.
Yeah.
But I lied to myself. Oh, because you're sort of okay looking.
So I think the takeaway message from this podcast is if you have to kill a dude, you should. But if you can get out, you should do that first, because nobody wants to give up that kind of closet space
Keep
for that
baking soda in the refrigerator. Baking soda at all times.
Also, you can mummify a body with baking
and
soda.
saran wrap.
That's amazing.
This is not a public announcement. We did not mean go kill somebody.
I know, how funny that we're like, we can't trap, we can't like support prostitution. Like, okay, so they weren't really talking about prostitution, and now it's just like a how to murder people podcast. Oh, like a true crime podcast? No. They're giving instructions on how to murder and hide bodies.
No. But
We're
what
very
we want
confused.
you to do is to
we don't know how to prosecute these people.
What we want you to do is reach out to community, reach out to your sisters, your friends, because those are the people that are going to help you figure this out.
Yep.
Don't do it on your own if you can avoid it.
Yeah.
You got the power to. That's the thing, is if you're talking about take responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
If you're ever in a shitty situation, if you can honestly pull back and take ownership of everything that you did to contribute, instead of being like, well, this person's an asshole and this person's that's okay, but you're still here.
Yes.
So take some responsibility for that. Once you take responsibility for
whole world
all
opens
the
up.
shitty things that are going on in your life, you go, oh, wait a minute. So what if
process.
Right. What if I have the power to get myself in this terrible situation? I wonder if I can change my fucking energy and my focus, and then use that power to get yourself in a better situation. And like, it's possible.
And
Well, I
your
realized-
your addict brain will lie to you and say that you should do, you should use, you should do more, you can do this, or I can get away with one drink, or like whatever you're at. And your abused brain will lie to you too and tell you that you don't have any options, but you do. And like, if you just play the mental exercise of like, if I had magical powers, I would cast a spell that did X, Y, and Z. Just anything to open up your brain's like the possibilities, right? Because if you tell your brain that there are no options, your brain stops looking for solutions. But if you start brainstorming crazy, quote unquote, impossible solutions, it opens up, you open yourself up to the possibility of getting out. I don't know. I read that somewhere.
Ooh.
Oh man.
Ooh, there's a door buzz. Maybe
we're gonna ignore that, but we should wrap up.
Yeah, let's wrap up.
We have condoms? No.
Wrap it up, guys.
No, it's saran wrap. We're gonna kill whoever walks through
That
the
doesn't
door.
work. Don't use saran wrap. If they take the condoms away, that's not.
Yeah, it's the
that's not
cheap shit
that's not
now.
a
Back
thing.
then it was saran wrap. Now it's recycled shit. You will stink. They will find the body.
Yeah, it's not a real barrier. It'll keep your fish fresh. Sweet. So yeah, email us.
I'm Ceyenne Doroshow.
There we go.
At I'm Ceyenne Doroshow. Ivy Coy Gorton on Facebook. Instagram, Ceyenne Doroshow. You can find me at glitzinc.org.
Yep, absolutely. That's an incredible organization. We're so thrilled to have you. Thank you for coming back on our podcast. We love your perspective. Love it.
I love you.
Follow us at Old Pro Podcast on Twitter and Instagram, and email us. Email us your stories. Thank you. By the way, we got so many emails when we were off, when we didn't upload 2 episodes for 2 weeks. We've not been been gotten by the feds. We've not, we're fine.
Yeah,
we're doing our best.
Yeah, thank you guys for emailing us to be like, what's happening? Because
we're not depressed.
It was like someone. My favorite one was this guy was like, hey, if you need a worthless man to talk to, it was very sweet.
We love you. We love you so much.
And it's also nice because they're like, half of the people are like, are you guys in trouble with the law? And the other half are like, you seem very emotionally unstable, both of you. Did you crawl into a cave somewhere? We wrapped ourselves in saran wrap and covered our own bodies in baking soda, and we've just been sitting in a closet. We're fine. We just switched over. Justine's our new producer. She's great.
Yep.
Love you, Justine.
Thank
But
you.
yeah, on all the social media, we're at
Old Pro Podcast. Email us at theoldestprofessionpodcast@gmail or Proton Mail, depending on how secure you want to be. It takes us a little bit longer to check Proton Mail, but no one else can read it. So if that's something you care about. Yeah.
We're being extra loud because someone did try to walk in the apartment. And so that's why I don't know if they're going to notice if you're listening and we just started they're like, wow, they got really fired up about those email responses.
Right, yeah.
I was trying to send a message to be like, stay the fuck out for another minute.
Another minute and a half.
And I'm on, I'm Wendi Starling on Twitter, at WendyBird82 on Instagram.
Oh, that's right. I'm Kaytlin Bailey. Thank you for listening. This has been
The Oldest Profession.
Yeah.